Good evening. We hope you enjoyed your dinner. It was delicious. It is now my pleasure to introduce tonight's keynote speaker, Pete Smithhisler. Pete is the current president and CEO of the North American Interfraternity Conference and has been working with college students for more than 25 years in a variety of professional roles. As president and CEO, Pete represents and advocates for the needs of member fraternities through the enrichment of the fraternity experience, advances collaboration and growth among the fraternity community, and coordinates daily interactions with many of the NIC's 75 member organizations, 5 million alumni on 800 campuses. He is one of the nation's foremost advocates for the fraternal movement due to his extensive work with students, higher education partners, and governmental agencies. Founded in 1909, the North American Interfraternity Conference is the trade association representing 75 international and national men's fraternities. Through advocacy, collaboration, and education, the NIC works to ensure that fraternities can operate in an environment conducive to their success. Pete is also a Lambda Chi, from Beta Tau Zeta at the University of Western Illinois. Pete has joined us tonight to talk about the importance of living the ritual. Please help me welcome Pete to the podium.
Good evening, brothers. What a treat for me to be here. I have been at 14 other fraternity sorority conventions this summer. And while I enjoy the opportunity to interact with them, learn from them, perhaps share some wisdom with them, there's really nothing better than being home and being with family, my brothers. So this is a special treat. What's exciting for me is the opportunity to be introduced by a man that I spent a great part of my career with. You know, there have only been 4 executives of the North American Interfraternity Conference. And how cool is it that 2 of us are Lambda Chi's? So John, thank you for the introduction. The other are Beta, the other are Phi Tau, and we like them too, but it's still pretty cool to be introduced by your one-time boss. I would be remiss if I didn't begin tonight with proper thank yous. First to the Grand High Zeta and our Grand High Alpha, Drew. Thank you very much for the invitation. It is my honor and privilege to be part of this. To the staff, Bill and your team, thank you very much. I've been treated like a king, and that feels terrific, so thank you. I do appreciate that. And to my brothers, thank you for being here. Thank you for investing your time, your talent, your energy, your heart into this thing that you and I know and love called Lambda Chi Alpha. What an honor it is for us to be called the leaders of the organization. And what a tremendous responsibility you and I have to do our best to ensure the future of this thing called Lambda Chi Alpha. I've titled my speech tonight From My Perspective, and I'd like to frame that for you so that you understand the impact my perspectives have on me. First and foremost, as a man of faith, my perspective is shaped by how I treat others, how that influences me to do my work, and to be part of the communities in which I live. Number two, as husband and father. That's my real job. That's why I get up in the morning, to ensure a better life for those two beautiful little girls, to understand that what I do helps shape their opportunities, and to create opportunities for them, and perhaps maybe knock a couple of hurdles down so that their path is easier. Clearly, my job shapes my perspective. As the president and CEO of the North American Interfraternity Conference, I have the job of telling the story of fraternity across this country. Every day, in some way, shape, or form, I'm asked to talk about what fraternity means and the influence that fraternity has in the lives of nearly 400,000 undergraduates and nearly 5 million alumni members. Some days, the burden is difficult. Sometimes I'm talking about things that really don't make me happy, that really don't bring pride to my work. But days like today more than make up for that, when I have the opportunity to come and be with you all as the leaders of Lambda Chi Alpha. So those are the perspectives, and how it just kind of dawned on me. I always talk about my work, and I always talk about how I love my fraternity, but rarely do I ever stop and say, gosh, I love Lambda Chi Alpha. I believe in fraternity. I believe that when fraternity is done right, it is the premier leadership experience on college campuses today. I further believe that fraternities have never been more relevant to a generation of college students than we are today, because of what we teach, the expectations we create, the opportunities we provide, and most importantly, because of the citizens that we send out to change the world. And I believe in Lambda Chi Alpha, its traditions, principles, and ideals. How awesome is it that I get to say that? I always talk about, I believe in fraternity. I believe in you. I believe in us. And I believe that we are here for a very true purpose, and that is to influence the lives of young men and to create better dads, better husbands, better engineers, better teachers, better doctors, better whatever careers. It is through Lambda Chi Alpha that we shape the world. It is through our leadership that opportunities happen for the next generation. And so that belief has helped to guide my work. It is why I choose to represent fraternities on a daily basis. It is that belief that guides my principles, and it is through that belief, then, that I make decisions. For of those to whom much is given, much is expected. You know, I've always attributed this quote to President Kennedy. He used it in his inaugural address. Imagine my surprise a few weeks ago when I'm standing in church and the Gospel of Luke is read, and I hear these exact words coming from the pulpit. I looked down at my wife because she knows that this is one of my favorite quotes, and I was like, the president needs to cite his work. That's called plagiarism, Mr. President. So I should probably change this slide and put a picture of Luke up there and have the people in the audience say, who's that? But think about that from the perspective of us as brothers. I always like to share with the groups that I work with that membership in fraternity, being a Lambda Chi, is a privilege, not a right. It is a privilege that you and I need to earn every single day. And we earn that not through our words and not through these shows, if you will. We earn it from our hard work. We earn it from our labor. We earn it from the opportunity to lead and to follow. That privilege is one that you and I need to understand comes with great responsibility. Understand that the work that you do is likely not to be reaped by you, but more by the next generation. It is through these opportunities that we are given that we have the opportunity to find out who we are, what we are, to discover our why. And when all of that comes together, everything begins to make sense. Whether it's as an undergrad or an alum, it doesn't matter. Doing what we say we are is what really helps to define the fraternity experience. You know that there are over 250 published definitions of leadership, each one valid in its own way. But I simply like to boil all down to one thing, and that is leadership is simply what we do. It is reflected in the care that we give to each other. It is reflected in how we spend our time. It is reflected in the opportunities we give to those around us. How do we give back to the community that has given us so much? How do we make the words of Lambda Chi Alpha come to life in our leadership? One of the hallmarks of the NIC's educational programming is this idea of big R, little r, capital R, little r. Big R, little r is big R ritual, little r ritual. And I bet the moment that you heard John introduce me and say, we're going to talk about living our ritual, that you automatically jump to the idea of our ceremony. That ceremony that you and I have gone through, which made us full brothers and required us to live the obligations of our fraternity. But guess what? That's not what I'm going to talk about tonight. I talk about big R, little r all the time. Wherever I go, how do you make your big R ritual your little r ritual? So I'd like to break that down for you and to have you become part of my big R, little r team. I would challenge that the ritual is not just a ceremony, that the ritual becomes a way of life. If I asked you to think about rituals that you practice daily, I would bet one of the first ones that you think of is brushing your teeth. Perhaps it's a ritual some of us should practice more. To the alumni in the room, those of you who are parents, you will understand exactly what I'm talking about when I share the experience of teaching our daughters how to brush their teeth. You think as parent that you are super parent and it's going to be easy and terrific until you take that child to the bathroom, you put a little tiny dab of toothpaste on a little tiny toothbrush, and toothpaste ends up everywhere except her mouth. It is a nightmare to teach a child to brush his or her teeth. But eventually the parent gets smart and you figure out that you hold that little hand and you put that little hand in the little mouth and you show the child how to brush her teeth. And eventually you can let go of that hand and she brushes her own teeth. Then you move to what I call the nagging stage. Have you brushed your teeth? Did you brush your teeth? Go brush your teeth. Go brush your teeth. I know you didn't brush your teeth. Go brush your teeth. But then something happens when you no longer have to remind the child to brush his or her teeth. It just becomes a habit, a ritual, if you will. So I would define little r ritual as a daily habit, something that has been taught to you, that is repeated without thought usually, and it's something that becomes a part of you. I would bet that if I asked you, please write a 3-paragraph essay on how you brush your teeth, most of us in the room would actually have to stop and think about how we practice that ritual. It sometimes comes to light for me because I don't do the shopping in my house. Sometimes I grab a new tube of toothpaste, I put the toothpaste on, and it's not until it hits my mouth that I say, hey, this isn't my normal toothpaste. This tastes funny. But I'm still able to practice my ritual. I still know how to practice my ritual. And most importantly, I know why I practice my ritual. So let's turn the tables out. I'll give you one more example of a little R ritual. How you put your shoes and socks on. Some of you in the room are sock, sock, shoe, shoe, tie, tie. Some of you are shoe, shoe, tie, tie. You should probably wear socks more often. Some of you are sock, shoe, tie, sock, shoe, tie. To which I say that is the correct way of doing it. Because that's how I was taught to do it. Now let's talk fraternity. Let's talk Lambda Chi Alpha. And the idea of making our ritual ceremony, the lessons that we learn, all of the obligations of our oath, how do we make that ritual experience come alive as a daily habit? How do we convince our brothers to make decisions based on the oaths that they took? How do we move from a group of men who sit together maybe once a semester in a darkened room, just speaking words, to a group of men who talk about those words and how it should be reflected in our daily action? How does ritual come alive in what we do? As humans, as men, we're going to make mistakes. That ritual that we experience is going to be front and center in our lives based on the decisions that we make, how we treat people, how we include people, and the difference that we make for those around us. It's when we stop being selfish and start living like a brother. It's when we start to understand that the letters that we are privileged to wear are more about the people and the expectations than perhaps defined as a social activity. Lambda Chi Alpha comes alive because our hearts and our minds are connected, and we understand that the oaths that we took were for a lifetime, and not just for a few short years while we're in college. We start to understand that Lambda Chi Alpha is a way of life, not just a fraternity. You know, some of us have the opportunity to get married. For sure, one of the top 3 days of my life. We wear an outward sign of our oath that we take to our partner as a symbol of that love and that fidelity and that commitment. But if I take my wedding band off, am I any less married? It's what I do, right? That makes the difference. It is how I decide to live this oath out loud every day. As it is then with this badge. It is an outward symbol of the privilege of calling ourselves a brother. If we take this badge off, are we any less part of this brotherhood? No, we're not. It's how you choose to live your life that makes the difference. And it is when you wake up in the morning and you understand that it's going to be hard work, that accountability comes with that oath. And we look at each other and we say, guess what? That's not what a brother does. That is not what the oath that you took said you would do. But you have to learn it, live it, teach it, and expect it before any of that can happen. Can I hear the people say, live it? Live it. Perhaps you could say it like you mean it. Can you say, live it? Live it. That's what I'm talking about. Now say, learn it. Learn it. Now say, teach it. Teach it. Now say, expect it. Expect it. Say, learn it, live it, teach it, expect it. Learn it, live it. Say, learn it. Learn it. It is the it that matters. You and I need to learn the ritual. And I'm not talking about memorizing the ceremony. I'm talking about how we bring it to life for us. How we invest fully in that commitment. My daddy taught me that every time you point the finger, there are 3 pointing back at you. So before you can even begin to hold anyone else accountable, you got to look first at yourself. And that begins with the learn it, live it, teach it, expect it concept. Only after you have committed to being the best brother that you can be, can you start to look at our other brothers and teach them what it actually means to be a Lambda Chi Alpha. You know, I am on a mission to eliminate hazing from the fraternity experience. I believe hazing has no place in this thing that you and I love. And I think that the reason that people haze is because they want power over someone else. But the thing about fraternity is, we are first among equals. And it is only once that we begin to understand that we have responsibility first do we understand why hazing has no place in the experience. I believe that hazing is a cancer and needs to be cut out. And if we as an industry do not address the issue of hazing, we will never reach our full potential. We will always, always put a block against some men joining our great organization. So say it for me one more time. Say, live it, learn it, teach it, expect it. Live it, learn it, teach it, expect it. Remind me again, my brothers, what is the it? The ritual. We have the opportunity to have the ritual present in our lives tonight. You and I have been through it before. Some in the room have been through it lots and lots and lots of times. Regardless of if this is your second time seeing it or your umpteenth time seeing it, I would ask you to listen tonight to the words that the team will share. And think about the role that fraternity plays in the decisions that you make. Whether it's in career or as an undergrad, whether it's in relationships or in opportunity. As we hear the oath read for us again, and as you restate your commitment, please think about what it is that you're actually saying. One characteristic that I believe makes a difference for fraternity men is that they can understand what courage is. For me, courage is being willing to take action in moments that matter. It is understanding that we have a responsibility. Courage looks different for each person. For some, there are great opportunities, and for others, it's little things that add up to big things. The NIC has a video that I'd like to share with you tonight. In the context of ritual, and the idea that it will take courage for you and me to live our ritual. As you watch the images, let them speak to you in very meaningful ways. And at the end, think about the connection of what you see to the experience that you and I have shared. Thank you for that. You know, I've probably seen that video more than 100 times now. And each time I watch it and I think about the connection to ritual, something new comes to mind. Like tonight, I guess it's just because I've gotten off a plane. The courage that it must have taken to land that plane in a river with no casualties. You know, sometimes I complain when my wife asks me to stop at the grocery store on the way home from work. But much like the woman in Tiananmen Square, would I have the courage to stand in front of a tank? You know, I met Dan Parmenter's dad. He's a member of Sigma Pi, and I met him at convention. I had no idea that he would be in the audience. Did you know Dan wasn't even registered for that class? It was Valentine's Day, and he wanted to spend a few more minutes with a new girlfriend. Or how about if you and I didn't have any arms and any legs? Would we still have the courage to become an NCAA champion as a wrestler? Or how about if you and I trained every day of our lives for one race, and out of the blocks, we came up hurt? Would you and I have the courage to understand that it wasn't about winning the race, it was about completing that race? And I love that his dad runs out of the stands through security to get to his son, because that to me is also an example of courage. I doubt that you and I are going to be called to great acts of courage. But I know that you and I are called daily to small acts of courage. I think it is living our ritual when we come forward without being asked, when we step up because it's the right thing to do, when we see those disadvantaged or less fortunate, that we understand our privilege and we do our part to make their life just a little bit better. I'm standing here looking at you, and I'm reminded of the night I was asked to join Lambda Chi Alpha. I wish that some of my chapter brothers could be in this room tonight to relive that night for me. You know, I didn't think about joining a fraternity that night. All I knew I was doing was joining my friends in something that they knew and that they loved. I had no idea what Lambda Chi Alpha stood for. But I was wrong. I knew everything that Lambda Chi Alpha stood for because I knew those men. And I wanted to be like them. They were teaching me the ritual from the day that they met me. And they were creating an expectation in me from that very beginning. I had invitations to join many other fraternities, but it never once crossed my mind to say yes to them because I knew I wanted to be like Steve. The night before initiation, Steve said to me, "Why do you want to be a brother?" And I remember very vividly saying back to him, "I just want to be like you." And so imagine if each of us simply does that, makes a conscious decision to live the ritual in every aspect of our life. It would be an amazing place. So as I pull myself together, I want to challenge you. First, to serve, to think of the leadership opportunities that you have as an opportunity to give back. It is a way to pay it forward. It is a way to ensure its future. To serve is to love. To love fully, that means you're committed. I ask you to take great risks, to stand up for what you believe, what Lambda Chi Alpha believes, what is right, and then take action. Have the courage to be the first to stand, to be the leader. Think about how your actions can inspire others to do the same. It's not about Lambda Chi specifically. It's about how we as fraternity men lead the world. And then never fail to say thank you. They're the sweetest words next to I love you. But yet sometimes they are the hardest to say. For me, it's much easier to show thanks than to say it. And then let's celebrate. Let's celebrate this thing that has been so good to us and will be good to generations yet to come. And realize that you're not in this alone. There are many people who are there to mentor and to be your brother. There are folks who are dedicating their lives to the future of this fraternity. Lean on them when you need it. And then when you are strong, offer your shoulder to another. For those rewards will come back to you in many ways, shapes, and forms. So I close tonight with a final thought. As you lay down tonight after seeing the ritual, ask yourself, what am I willing to do for this? If this is a privilege, not a right, what am I willing to do to earn this badge every single day, every minute of that day? As you feel the gold beginning to warm, think about what this actually means to you. And if you didn't have this, where would you be? If the mentors in your life were not part of this, how would your life be less? And then thank God we have the opportunity to call ourselves brothers. It's always a great day to be a Lambda Chi, especially today. Thank you all. I don't even work for him anymore, and I still have to do all of his work.
Don't leave. Don't leave. Pete, thank you on behalf of Lambda Chi Alpha. This evening, we would like to present you the George W. Spazek Order of Interfraternity Service. The Order of Interfraternity Service was created in 1958 to recognize those men and women who have contributed outstanding service in the betterment of all college fraternal organizations. In 2002, this award was renamed the George W. Spazek Order of Interfraternity Service to honor and recognize Executive Vice President Emeritus George Spazek for his now over 70 years of service and commitment to Lambda Chi Alpha and the interfraternity world. And on a personal note, this is a big day. This is a big day of celebration for all of us, and especially for George. He can't be with us tonight, but he is home celebrating his 91st birthday. Brothers and guests, please join me in congratulating Pete as the latest recipient of the George W. Spazek Order of Interfraternity Service.
John just told me that I don't need to speak, but I might just want to say thank you. From the bottom of my heart. Mostly because one of my role models is George. Thank you.